We have all seen Superman's goodness, but what if that Superman deviates from the path of goodness and chooses the path of evil? Something similar happens in our story today. So, the film begins with a couple who have been married for many years but do not have any children. In this couple, the wife's name is Tori and the husband's name is Kyle. Now, one night, Tori hears some noises from outside. She gets out of bed and goes to the window to look. Just then, she hears a very loud sound and sees a flashing red light. It feels as if something has flown down from the sky and fallen there. Now, showing this light, the scene changes, and we are shown a video clip of a child. After this, 10 years pass in the story. Now, that child from the video has grown up, and his name is Brandon. Brandon is Kyle and Tori's son. One night, while he is sleeping in his room and his mother is painting in her room, a red light and terrifying noises start coming from a piece of wood kept in the garage. Suddenly, while sleeping, Brandon's body begins to shake very violently. Tori also hears all these noises, but she ignores them. Meanwhile, Brandon gets out of bed and jumps out of the window. Tori gets a hint of this and comes outside to see. But outside, everything seems normal. As she is returning inside, someone passes behind her very quickly. Tori thinks that Brandon is scaring her. Therefore, following the sound, she reaches the garage and sees that Brandon is leaning over there, trying to open the basement door with all his strength. The door was locked, and Tori is shocked to see this. She makes Brandon stand up and tries to calm him down. This was the same place from where the red light and noises were coming. The next day, Brandon and Kyle are fixing furniture. Then Kyle says that he is going to get some important items and asks Brandon to mow the grass with the machine. After Kyle leaves, Brandon tries to start the machine. But when the machine does not start even after trying a lot, Brandon gets angry and pulls its cord so hard that the heavy machine flies and falls far away. Brandon is surprised looking at his hands, wondering where this much strength came from in him. He goes near the machine and sees that its blade is spinning. He puts his hand inside the running blade, but the surprising thing was that nothing happens to his hand. Instead, the machine stops and its strong iron blade breaks. This meant that Brandon has some special powers. Time passes and Brandon is now 12 years old. His parents go to a restaurant with friends on his birthday, where a friend of Kyle brings a gun as a gift for Brandon. But Kyle refuses to give him the gun and says that he is still a child, and all this is not right for him at this age. Brandon gets angry at this and misbehaves with his father. Due to this, Kyle cancels the party, and everyone goes back home. After reaching home, Tori and Kyle talk about Brandon's changed behavior. Feeling suspicious, they search his room where they find mutilated pictures of animals and strange magazines. They feel that something is wrong with Brandon and he needs proper guidance. Tori says that they should go out somewhere where they can talk to him openly. The next day, they pack their luggage and leave for camping. They reach a forest and set up their camp. Meanwhile, during hunting, Kyle explains to Brandon how to behave during the teenage years. At night, while everyone is sleeping, Tori suddenly wakes up and sees that Brandon is not in his bed. Now the scene changes back to Brandon's classmate, who closes her laptop and is about to sleep. Just then, music suddenly starts playing on her laptop. She turns it off, but the music starts playing again. She gets scared and this time places heavy books on top of the laptop. Then suddenly, she sees Brandon standing behind the curtain. She screams in fear. Just then, her mother comes there and calms her down. On the other side, Tori reaches there while searching for Brandon. Brandon says that he was right here and had gone to the washroom. Then one night, as Kyle is going to sleep, he hears the chickens screaming from the garage. He takes his gun and goes to the garage to investigate. There Brandon was standing, staring at the chickens in a strange way. And seeing him, the chickens were also screaming in fear. Kyle asks him what he is doing here at this time, but Brandon does not give any answer and leaves. Now at midnight, the garage lights go off and the chickens scream loudly again. Because of this, Kyle wakes up and goes to look. He is stunned to see the sight there because someone had killed the chickens very brutally. He immediately calls Tori and says that Brandon did all this because he was staring at them at night. But Tori does not believe his words. Now the next day at school, the teacher makes the children play a game in which all the boys stand in a circle, while one child will fall backward trusting them, and the others will catch him. When it is Brandon's turn, his classmate does not catch him and Brandon falls. And everyone starts laughing at him. The teacher tells the girl to pick Brandon up and apologize, but as soon as she extends her hand, Brandon angrily twists and breaks her. As a result, Brandon is suspended from school for 2 days, and the parents are called to the school. After returning home, Tori tells Kyle that the thing we have hidden in the garage is pulling Brandon towards itself, because I have seen him trying to open the door there many times. Now at night, a red light and a strange alien language are heard from behind the door. Sensing the trouble, Brandon wakes up, goes to the garage, and breaks the lock this time. The light is so bright that it reaches Tori's room. Tori runs to the garage and sees Brandon flying in the air inside that light. As soon as she goes near him, Brandon falls down and gets injured on his hand. Brandon is surprised to see himself injured for the first time in his life. He asks his mother, "Who am I?" Then Tori tells him that 13 years ago they found a spaceship outside the house, from which they found this baby, meaning Brandon. They did not have any child, so they adopted him. They had hidden that spaceship in the basement and no one knew about this till date, not even Brandon. Hearing this, Brandon goes mad with anger and leaves from there. High red light comes out of his eyes and he says that he will finish everyone. Now in the next scene, his classmate is working on her laptop. Just then her laptop shuts down and Brandon appears in front of her. Brandon forbids her from screaming and says that he has brought a flower for her. The girl says that my mother has told me to stay away from you, therefore I cannot talk to you. Within this moment, Brandon disappears from there. And in the next scene, that girl's mother's restaurant is shown. When she is closing the restaurant, suddenly strange marks start appearing on the window. In reality, those were Brandon's signs. The lights start flickering and she cannot understand what is happening. Suddenly a bulb breaks and a piece of glass hits directly into that woman's eye. She runs towards the storeroom out of fear and repeatedly sees a boy wearing a mask who was Brandon. Brandon breaks the door with his laser power and kills that woman brutally. The police arrive and start the investigation, but they do not understand who did this. Now Tori takes Brandon to a counselor, who was her friend. The counselor asks Brandon many questions, but the reason behind his strange behavior cannot be found. That night while Kyle and his friends are playing a game at a bar, in which the counselor's husband was also present, and the counselor is alone at home, just then there is a knock on her door and Brandon is standing in front of her. He threatens her not to tell the police anything about him, otherwise it will be bad for everyone. The counselor gets angry at this misbehavior of Brandon and tells him to leave the house. She comes inside and goes to sleep, but Brandon enters inside again wearing the mask. Just then, the counselor's husband comes home and, seeing Brandon there, says, "Come, let me drop you to your home." But Brandon looks at him and anger and red light comes out of his eyes, making that man fall far away. He stands up and starts chasing Brandon with his car. But after going a short distance, a malfunction starts occurring in his car. In front of the car, he sees Brandon flying in the air. He feels that maybe he has drunk too much alcohol, that is why it is looking like this. But just then, his car starts flying in the air and falls hard on the ground. His face hits the steering wheel and the steering breaks. Brandon comes near him and makes that same strange mark of his using his blood. On the other side, Tori and Kyle are worried because it is very late at night and Brandon had not returned home. When Brandon returns home, his shirt is missing. On being asked by Tori, he says that he was playing with friends and fell down, therefore the shirt got torn and dirty. Hiding the shirt, he goes to his room. But Tori and Kyle understand that he is lying. At night, Kyle wakes up and Tori is not in bed. Searching for her, he goes to the forest where he sees that same spaceship. Tori is standing there and has a baby in her lap. Tori's body looks blood-soaked and terrifying. She asks Kyle to look at the baby. Just then, the phone suddenly rings and Kyle wakes up. In reality, all this was a terrible dream. Now, on the phone, it was that same counselor friend of Tori who informs that her husband has met with an accident. And they immediately rush to the hospital. The counselor asks them if Brandon was at home at night. Because of this, Kyle's suspicion turns into belief. The next day in the morning, they ask Brandon that the counselor's husband has died. "Do you know something? Because you went to their house at night." But Brandon flatly denies it. In anger, as Kyle repeatedly asks while scolding him, Brandon suddenly throws Kyle away with one hand and goes to his room. Kyle is now absolutely sure that Brandon has done all this. But Tori was still not ready to believe, so Kyle goes to Brandon's room and finds his blood-stained shirt. Showing the shirt to Tori, he explains that Brandon is not a human but a demon from another world, who will finish everyone. But Tori still remains silent. The next day, Kyle takes Brandon out on the pretext of hunting and Tori is alone at home. Just then, the police arrive and show Tori that same mark of Brandon which was found on the road, but Tori refuses to recognize it. After the police leave, Tori understands that Brandon is indeed a demon. She finds a notebook of Brandon in which he had drawn horrific pictures of torture and death. Here in the forest, Kyle has made a plan to kill Brandon because he knew everything. He fires a bullet at Brandon from behind. But the bullet has no effect on Brandon and Kyle begins to tremble with fear. Before he can load another bullet, Brandon disappears. Kyle runs to save his life, but Brandon comes flying in the air, attacks him, and knocks him down. He comes wearing a mask and kills Kyle by burning his head with his eyes laser. Tori is repeatedly calling Kyle so that she can tell him everything, but Brandon picks up the phone and says that Dad is gone. Tori understands that Brandon has killed his father. She asks, "Where are you?" Then Brandon says, "I am at home." Tori sees that Brandon is flying in the air outside the house. She immediately calls the police, after which a male police officer and a female officer arrive there. Tori gathers courage and opens the door, but just then, the body of the police officer standing outside suddenly blasts. The female officer tells Tori to hide inside and starts looking for Brandon while calling for backup. But Brandon attacks her too and kills her. Tori is watching all this while hiding under the bed and is absolutely terrified. Tori quietly jumps out of the window and runs toward the garage. Just then, she remembers that only one thing harms Brandon, that piece of the spaceship. She picks up a sharp piece of the spaceship and calls out to Brandon. When Brandon comes in front of her, Tori pretends to show love, hugs him, and is about to attack him from behind with that piece. But Brandon catches her hand. In anger, he flies very high into the sky carrying Tori and drops her from there. Due to falling from such a height, Tori dies on the spot. After this, Brandon crashes a passenger plane in the sky which had 268 people in it and everyone gets killed. Brandon leaves his same mark at the plane crash site as well. The police think that the plane crashed on this farmhouse in which Kyle and Tori died, and their son Brandon luckily survived. Now in the final scene, Brandon is comfortably eating biscuits and the film ends right here. I hope you liked this video.